Have you ever thought that the story the media was telling wasn't the truth, or was some other version of reality that everybody else lives in? Well, in this video we're going to explore what is actually going on between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Because if you look over here on the left, we have all these polls that appear to indicate Joe Biden's winning by 10, 20, 30% in some cases, right? And then these are, quote, national polls, end quote. That the media says represent the collective of 330 plus million people in America? Interesting. We're going to talk about that in this video. So, with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it's good to frickin' see you. By the way, if you're returning, you better press that subscribe button, bro. It's your second time here. Okay, so what we did is we put together our own ranking based upon actual data to see who is winning. But before we get into the data and where it came from, let's take a look at this. So this is Real Clear Politics. There is seven different polls on here that are done by these organizations on the side here, right? YouGov is The Economist, CNBC, Rasmussen, Quinnipiac, NBC, The Hill, IBD, right? All of these organizations, or some of them, you may have heard of, where you like to think that they might be slightly credible. However, we're not going to get into all the biases that come with polling, with surveying, with the stratification of how the data is presented. Because you could get all this data that shows in one direction, and yet you choose to stratify it in a different way. Stratify is essentially a complicated way of saying you're going to take all this data, which doesn't really represent reality, and you're going to try to make it represent reality. That's effectively what they're doing through stratification. So you think that just the sheer act of trying to stratify something is going to manipulate the data? Yeah, no fucking shit. You're not a dumbass. Like, you're an intelligent human being. You can think for yourself. That's exactly what it does. And then the other thing is, if you look at this, under the third area right here, the sample. So this is the sample size. Again, fairly laughable that a poll with 900 people, the media is going to report as being representative of what the fucking collective nation thinks. This is not a joke. This is actually how it's done in 2020 when there's something called the internet, where you can get massive amounts of data from many different sources. And in this, we examine Donald Trump and Joe Biden's website. So we took a look at each one of their websites, because what's going to give you the most accurate representation of what is actually taking place? Well, if you take a look at these polls where you have 1,000 people, that is, first of all, there's many issues when it comes to polling online, how the polling is done, the questions that are asked, the source for gathering the polling data online, the size of the sample, many different issues here that are not addressed. And then the stratification, which is literally the manipulation of the data to try to fit it into reality. Go fucking study. I've studied statistics. I have an MBA. I have a CFA. Like, that's exactly what it's doing in a layman's terms, but they use a fancy word to try to make it sound like that's not what it is. It's literally manipulating the data that came out to try to make it look like reality. That's what it is. So what if we took a look at the public face for each one of these? Meaning each candidate's website. Because what does the website represent? Well, let's first ask, why does somebody go to a website? Well, they go to a website for one of two reasons. First of all, they're going to go to gather some type of information, right? Think about your own behavior and how you live your life when you go to a website. You go to a website to get some type of information. It might be entertainment. It might be news. It might be a piece of data. It might be some price on something. What is the other reason people go to a website? To purchase something. In this case, donations. So if we were to look at your website and my website, and your website gets 40 million views a month, and my website gets 4 million views a month, what does that tell you? Well, first of all, right off the bat, I mean, 4 million's a little bit, just a smidge higher than 900. This is not 900,000. This is 900 people versus 4 million, right? So you get the quality of the data improving because the sample size is substantially larger. And then you got to understand why people go to a website. To get information or to purchase something. In this case, a donation. So let's see how each one of these candidates' websites ranks in the United States. Because we know how the biased polling looks. But let's actually take a look at reality. Let's take a look at what's actually happening that the media is not going to report on. Or if they did, it would be completely manipulated. And as we go through this, we have to recognize two things. This problem is here. I'm going to take responsibility. I'm 35 years old. I've never once even thought of slightly taking the time out of my day to go vote. And I know a lot of other people like that. Or they'll see something that they don't feel is right, and they're complacent. Complacency is death. If we want something to change, we need to do something about it. Now, again, at the end of the video, I'm going to ask you to share this with somebody if you agree with this message, but just bear with me. We used 3 data sources to understand how each one of these candidates ranked, right? And we did this at the beginning of the month. We're going to speed up a little bit here. This is Alexa. This is a data aggregation site, essentially, owned by Amazon. They rank websites for research purposes and other things. And they rank Donald Trump's website in the United States, so this is out of all the sites in the U.S., 1,429th. And then, so that is one factor we're using for each one of these websites. Each one of these sources of data, we're taking 2 factors. So on Alexa, we're using that, and then we're using the delta in between the last 90 days. This is on a global basis, so it's a little bit more cloudy, right? Because it's the ranking of Donald Trump's website and Joe Biden's website on a global basis, so it's not going to be as accurate as the U.S. version of it, right? But the essence of what we're trying to do is capture how much each one of them is growing over the last 90 days, and you can see that this is kind of like it's growing very slowly, and then it's starting to pick up the growth. It might be slightly flattening out here, where Joe Biden is up, just to start out with, and then there's a nice little dip here at the month of June, and it looks like to be going up actually potentially a steeper slope here. But we can see Joe Biden's at 25th hundred, and if we come over here, we can see that these two are the data points here. So Donald Trump's website is leading Joe Biden's. Wait, how is that possible? 900 people said that on average, Joe Biden is the more popular candidate. How is this data possible? Well, this is actual fucking data. Just the sheer act of asking somebody's fucking opinion without observing their actions is going to impact how they respond. Now, let's move on to the next one. This is SimilarWeb. Similar company to Alexa in terms of data aggregation for other purposes that companies can use to optimize things. And in the United States, Donald Trump's website is ranked 400th, basically 401. And the total traffic to the website, I believe this is over the last 30 days, is 27 million, right? Just over 27 million. And you can see over this time period here that it is growing. Let's take a look at Joey's. Well, he is ranked 1850th roughly. We can see he's also got, his is a little bit more lumpy. It's not just continuous, right? Where we look at Donald Trump, it's kind of like fairly easy to see the trend. In this one here, there is a dip here and there was a dip here. It looks like just minor. But here there was a giant uptick, then 2 periods of down, and then a uptick again. But we see over here, this is 6.2 million. So let's take a look at that data. Well, again, these are people who are actually going to somebody's site to get information or give money. Like, yes, same person could go to the website multiple times. Not sure. I'm sure there's some people who do that. But again, we have 27 million versus 900. You're not a fucking moron. Use your head, right? Out of the sites in the United States, we have Trump's at 401 and Joe Biden's at 1844. There's a big delta on that. That's just the difference between those 1,400 spots, right? And as you can see, right, there's over a 4x increase in terms of the amount of traffic to the site. 4x increase. For every 1 that goes to Joe Biden, there's 4 that goes to Donald Trump. Roughly, more than that. But wait a second. That's not the case over here. That's strange. Let's take a look at the last one. Maybe that will be representative of what this biased data shows. Because this is definitely biased versus actual reality. So this is called WooRank. They do similar things as the other 2 sites mentioned. And in this, what we're going to do is take a look at their US ranking, but we're also going to take a look at the referring domains, which is essentially a nice way of saying who is directly sending traffic to that site, right? Because if you have influencers that are sending traffic to your site, those are supporters, right? If there's somebody who's willing to take their website and then link to your website, a influencer is somebody you can think of who has any influence. If you know 6 people and you use your voice and your fucking head to talk, right, and express at least some modicum of like regurgitation of what you hear, even if you don't think, you're an influencer in some way. And people who have a website tend to put a little bit more thinking into what they do. It's probably their livelihood to make a living. So let's take a look at that data. Well, here we have Trump at 1,429th, and We have referring domains, 22,000, just over 22,000. Interesting. Bet Joe Biden's is higher, right? Joe Biden, 2,311 in the US. And let's see his referring. 8,000, just over 8,000. Oh, that's interesting. Let's take a look at that data over here. Well, when we look at this, again, it's interesting, right? Joe Biden's ranked 2,300th. Donald Trump is ranked 1,400th. The delta on there is pretty big. What is going on? Is there something the media isn't telling us? Now, obviously, I'm being facetious here. We know the media doesn't have the truth as their North Star. We know the media doesn't have accuracy as their North Star. We know for sure it's not objectivity. So, what is going on here? Interestingly, there's also 22,000 influencers, other sites, that are referring traffic to Donald Trump's website versus 8,000 to Joe Biden's website. That's also interesting, right? When you have the support of 22,000 people who more than likely, at least a high percentage of those people, probably just make a living through their website. And they're taking the time and effort and more than likely using this to send traffic to Donald Trump's website. It's kind of interesting. It's almost 3 times as many. Let's see. Well, I don't remember what Real Clear Politics. Oh, that's right. Real Clear Politics says it's the other way around. Now, why would they do that? There's an agenda. And as we just talked about, the truth, accuracy, objectivity is not the agenda. It's divisiveness. It's to divide people. They're there to make money and to push their agenda and propaganda. Because there's actually people who believe these polls. I wanted to find out the truth for myself. Because when I'm on TikTok, link down below if you guys want to jump over to TikTok and say what's good, I see a tremendous amount of stuff for Trump. But when I look for Joe Biden, a lot of times I see people like posting videos about Joe Biden saying like something ridiculous, but there's definitely way less videos. So, what do we do about this? First of all, we both have to stop being complacent and actually take action. Your version of action might be different than my version of action. However, if you enjoyed this video and the message that we're spreading, I'm going to ask you to take a moment and think about somebody who you think can get value out of this video. Share this message with them. Just one person. If we can all go through and stop being complacent and take action to get the message out there that what the media is doing is not only laughable at best and very, very detrimental at worst, causing death and other pieces we're not going to even get into. any of that. But there's something going on here that's much bigger. The other thing that's interesting that I noticed that's constantly popping up on TikTok, because there isn't as much censorship on there yet. I noticed is the newer the platform, the less censorship there is on it. Pedophilia, in regards to what is taking place in this country and around the world. Something big is taking place. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. Haven't gone down that rabbit hole. If you guys know, you can let me know down below in the comment section. Make sure you press that like button on the way down there. Subscribe to see future videos. We do the same thing we did in this video based upon the data, based upon millions of data points for YouTube search volume, Google search volume, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I bet you might guess who's actually winning. Start today using your head and awaken. Stop being complicit. Peace.